The rental inspection and registration program in the city of Detroit is an absolute failure. It points out why these programs do not work. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic to be covering today, and it's all about rental registration and inspection programs that these cities are putting into place. Basically, these programs, they don't work. And there's a multitude of reasons why they don't actually catch the bad landlords that they're supposed to be catching. And instead, what they do is they punish a bunch of good landlords who went through the whole process, registered their properties, got them inspected. And then guess what? Those are the ones who got screwed over, not the bad ones. The bad ones didn't even bother participating in these programs. Their properties are unregistered, uninspected, and there's nothing that these cities are doing that's going to stop that situation. So the Detroit is absolutely, the case study of why what I'm saying is absolutely true. And I have two articles today that are going to be covering that topic. So before I get into the articles, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? Do you think that rental inspection and registration programs actually work to stop these, very, very few bad landlords? Okay, like I've said before, 99% of landlords are doing everything right. Okay, they are keeping their properties maintained, they are listening and respecting their tenants, and they're doing everything possible because they want to make money. Okay, that's the real reason why the grand majority of landlords are doing everything right. They know that that is the best way to make money. Now, we do have very, very small percentage of bad landlords out there, and I say, around 1% of them, right? And a lot of them, sometimes they get in over their heads, maybe they have, too much debt on their properties, too much leverage. Maybe they just don't understand the way to properly manage a property, or maybe they got screwed over by some really, really bad tenants. Maybe they're absentee in another state and they're not, managing their property manager the way they're supposed to. But their properties become in bad shape, and, what ends up happening is, guess what? Now, they're falling apart. They're not, passing these inspections, and they're giving all landlords a bad name. So, like I said, I don't think this is the case for the majority of landlords, but these cities and municipalities are passing all these rules, all these regulations that say, hey, landlords need to register their properties and have them inspected. And like I said before, I think it's really a cash grab or some way that they can expand the bureaucracy, pass jobs out by charging landlords hundreds of dollars to register these properties, and then, forcing us to go through thousands of dollars worth of repairs to pass inspections. I mean, it's ridiculous, okay? So let me read a little bit about the city of Detroit and their ridiculous program that is basically 100% useless. So the first article I have for today is coming from Michigan News from the University of Michigan, and it says 9 in 10 eviction cases filed during the pandemic came from landlords not compliant with rental codes. So the rental codes that these landlords are not compliant with is they're unregistered, okay? That is the rental code, okay? So the majority of evictions that are happening within the city of Detroit are coming from properties where they're unregistered and the properties haven't been inspected. Why is that? Because the majority of properties within the city of Detroit are unregistered and haven't been inspected. So let's get into it. Despite pandemic-related eviction prevention measures, thousands of Detroit renters were evicted in the past 2 years due to loopholes in policies and enforcement. Analysis of court data by University of Michigan researchers shows nearly 90% of eviction cases filed in Detroit during the pandemic came from landlords whose properties were not in compliance with the city's rental ordinance. Eviction case filings are on the rise in 2022, signaling the potential return to a cycle of mass evictions. So yeah, there's a lot of evictions going on right now, and rightfully so. There were a ton of tenants not paying rent during the eviction moratoriums, and guess what? Now the landlords are kicking them out. They're just like, hey, you guys gotta go. You weren't paying, gotta go. So let's keep going here. Researchers say enforcing existing rental laws and making some pandemic-era interventions permanent will be key to maintaining housing stability for more Detroiters, especially as the state's COVID emergency rental assistance program closes at the end of June. Even with unprecedented eviction prevention measures in place, major policy and enforcement gaps meant that landlords and the court still forcibly uprooted thousands of renters from their homes and neighborhoods during the pandemic, said Alexa Eisenberg, a postdoctoral research fellow at UM's Poverty Solutions Initiative. As federal rental aid expires and the affordable housing crisis escalates, mass evictions will continue unabated if city and court officials do not act. So yeah, it always boggles my mind when I read this stuff from housing advocates when they say here that they're worried about maintaining housing stability, okay? Yet they never talk about the reason why a lot of these evictions occur, which is non-payment of rent. That is the number one reason why the evictions occur everywhere throughout the entire country, for non-payment of rent. Yeah, there's other reasons as well, but if we're talking about the single thing that takes up, I believe, like 70% of evictions are for non-payment of rent. So if people aren't paying their rent, what do they expect the landlords to do? Okay? No, we don't want housing instability. In my mind, the majority of landlords want, hey, we want a tenant in our property paying the rent on time every single month, and to live in our property, and like, we want as little vacancy as possible. We want as little damage to our property as possible. We want our rent paid on time. We want to be able to put in place rent increases as costs go up, and no complaints from the tenant. But we don't always get everything that we want. So we're kind of, playing this game of, hey, sometimes our tenant can pay on time, sometimes they can't. Sometimes our tenants can't pay at all. Sometimes, the tenant moves on and wants to go live somewhere else, and we have to go find a new tenant. So we're going to have some vacancy, even if it's only for a month here or there. So yeah, I mean, keep in mind that, hey, we are operating as businesses, and that is the point. Okay, this isn't about stability. Like, you want basically to lock people in so that they never move. That seems to be a very common thing amongst progressives and this far left leaning crowd, right? They want people to, they want neighborhoods to never change. They want them to just stay the same, and that's not natural. Okay, in real life, people move around. They don't stay in the same house forever. In those rent-controlled cities where they got people living in these rent-controlled units for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that is unnatural. That is not the way that markets truly work. And that is caused by, the artificial price controls that they put in place. But anyway, when we're talking about the city of Detroit and all of these, people who are in non-compliance, what they're talking about is people who did not participate in this whole rental registration program. And let me find the paragraph in this that says that, right? It says, the analysis found nearly 90% of the 25,500 eviction cases filed in Detroit between March 2020 and March 2022 were for properties that did not have a certificate of compliance at the time. The city of Detroit's rental ordinance requires landlords to register their properties and obtain a certificate of compliance before they can rent out their properties. As of March, data from the city of Detroit's open data portal indicated that just 6% of Detroit's rental properties had a certificate of compliance. So there we go, right there, okay? They created this, certificate of compliance and rental registration and, inspections and all that, and only 6% of the rental properties in the entire city even decided to participate. The other 94% were like, hey, come get us, okay? What do you want? You think we're going to participate in a program that is unfair, unjust, and completely screws us over? They just said, no, we're not doing it. And the city itself, their resources are so limited, they can't even go after all of these non-compliant landlords. They don't even know who they all are. Okay, they're not going door to door and asking, hey, are you a renter? Who's your landlord? No, they just have no clue. And that is the truth. Okay, so I have a second article here, and it's also going over the same issue, right? It's a little bit older. It's from 2019. It's coming from DetroitNews.com, and it says Detroit push fails to boost rental inspections. Yeah, and it's going over the same issue. The bulk of city landlords have ignored a campaign launched by Mayor Mike Duggan nearly a year ago requiring all rentals pass city inspections. As of earlier this month, only 10%, or 537 of 5,281 known rental properties, had a city clearance to legally operate in 6 zip codes the effort first began targeting back in February, according to data reviewed by the Detroit News. Officials originally pledged to have rental units citywide pass inspections needed for certificates of compliance by the end of 2019, but the slow pace means that 2-year goal will be pushed back, while inspectors target violators with tickets and possible misdemeanor criminal charges, said David Bell, director of the Buildings, Safety Engineering, and Environmental Department. So yeah, even back in 2019, landlords, they didn't want to get into this program, and there's good reason to not get into it because, like I said before, the landlords who actually participate in this, they are the ones who are going to be suffering, okay? They're the ones who have to fix ridiculous, stupid crap that the inspectors are pointing out. They're the ones who, they're going to be targeted, and it's not going to make it economically easier for them. In fact, it'll make the rents in their units be higher, okay? And this is what happens all throughout the country, okay? You can't force everyone to register their rental properties, and there are a ton of rental properties even in cities where they require registration and inspections. There's tons of them that are unregistered. Now, I personally, all of my properties are registered, even though I don't have to. They wouldn't know if I didn't do it, and they wouldn't come after me unless there was a complaint. But, I like to follow the law. I like to do what the city says, and, that's because I don't want any trouble. I don't want to make waves. I don't like the laws, but I follow them nonetheless. So, yeah, I don't think that these rental registration and inspection programs are going to work throughout the country because, we look at Detroit and we see, hey, if you participate in the program, you're the one who gets screwed, while those who don't participate, they get to continue to operate, they get to continue to do their business, and they don't have to jump through all those hoops.